As of today, everyone that has logged in since the last update should be getting their 4th anniversary envelope for a free ship. Now, this video is primarily for new players, so I'm not going to talk about what probably a good chunk of you guys already have, because pretty much every ship in this envelope right here is something you must already have. So that being said, let's go ahead and get this started. So there are newer ships this time around, specifically one that I want to talk about, and it's the first one, U-96. So U-96 is still one of the best submarines in the game as of right now. You run her in a full wolf pack setup, which consists of 3 KMS submarines, specifically the let me find it real quick. Specifically these right here. I think U-37 counts as well too. Yeah, she does. But pretty much this. I think you drop 101 for 96, or it's either 101 or 81 for 96, and that is usually the core setup for a Wolfpack submarine setup. Now, I personally don't use her because I'm too lazy to use 96, mainly because she has 10 more affinity to finish out maxing to 100, and personally I just forget using her. I'm just really lazy to get that last 10 affinity. Otherwise I would probably use her, but until then, submarines are a nice chunk of damage, but it's not super important for me to min max. I just stick with my usual submarine setup, so I'm not going to bother too much with 96, but she is definitely a good submarine to have. And if you guys are either 1 or 2 wolf packs away from finishing your full submarine setup, she is a nice pick to get with the ticket. But keep in mind, this is for new players, and most of the new players aren't in submarine territory as of right now. I say the first introduction of submarines is when you're pushing World 13, is when you're probably going to need submarines. But again, some of you guys won't be there for a couple months, so it's not something you want to consider as of right now, but something you want to look towards in the future, assuming you need that assistance from the submarines to help you clear it. So until then, U-96 is a good pick, but there's probably better options out there for you as of right now for a good boost to get you through the early game. But if you're looking for later into the future, not only is she a good submarine to have, she is much difficult to obtain than probably the rest of the ships in this envelope, mainly because she's from the special banner, and as of right now there's no other way to get her aside from pulling her from the gacha. So that is U-96 right there. Essex, still a fine carrier for the anti-air worlds, which are world 12 and 13. Obviously she has the memes going on, and she has the new skin, so if you guys really like the new Essex skin and you don't have Essex, now's the time to pick her up. So that's probably what my biggest reason as to why you want to grab her. Assuming you guys don't already own her and you like her skin, then it's a nice pickup to get. 100%. It's a really nice skin. Memes aside, it's actually a really good skin, so I can highly vouch. If you guys want to grab it, then go ahead and get it. It's also really cheap too, 180 gems compared to the usual like 980, or if it's L2D 1200. So it's a pretty nice pickup if you want to go for Essex. That being said though, Essex, even though she is a good ship to have in the later stages of the game, there are much better carriers out there compared to her. But I think if you are a new player, some of you guys lack those carriers. So having Essex, even though there are better options out there, as of right now, probably a good pickup for you, assuming you lack any good carriers to use. And she'll probably get you through the early stages of World 12 very easily, and World 13. So good pickup if you don't have her. Obviously there are better options out there, but definitely still a good pickup if you want Essex. Now Enterprise here, I'm pretty sure Enterprise has been in like every single one of these envelopes, so if you guys don't have her by now, I don't know what to tell you. She is still a very good ship to have in the game, even though she has one skill. That one skill is really broken. Lucky E to this very day is still a game-changing skill. That being said though, there's like 3 or 4 different ways of obtaining Enterprise, and she's been in pretty much every single prior envelope we've gotten in the game as of right now, from anniversary to spring stuff to Chinese New Year's. Well, I don't see her there, but there's a lot of ways to obtain her. Not to mention you can buy her from the shop, not the shop, the requisitions. There's just so many ways of obtaining Enterprise that I can't justify grabbing her unless you really like this ship. You just started playing and you really want Enterprise, then go ahead and grab her. I'm not going to stop you. I'm just saying as of right now, she's probably one of the easiest, if not the easiest ship to obtain in this whole envelope selection. So keep that in mind. Hood will be the next one. Hood, just like Enterprise, still an okay ship. Obviously, she's been power creep extremely hard, but for the most part, she'll get you through the early game just fine. And just like Enterprise, there are multiple ways of obtaining her, from the metal acquisition, previous envelopes. There's just multiple ways of obtaining her. So I can't really justify using an envelope on her, but if you like her for whatever reason, she does get a free oath skin as well. And some of her skins are really nice. Royal Navy bias aside, they're really good. So if you really want her, go ahead and grab her. Otherwise, just like Enterprise, there are multiple ways of obtaining her. Can't really justify using a envelope on her unless you really like her. Yukikaze. Yukikaze is the next one on hand. She was really good in PvP, but I think nowadays people don't use her as much in PvP because they have their own strict meta that I don't really follow, but I'm pretty sure Yukikaze is not involved in that fleet for offense and defense. So in terms of PvE, she can still be useful, but again, her kit is mainly built for survivability, and then she doesn't really offer that much aside from just staying alive and healing backline if they fall below a certain threshold of health. Some people, they think that's fine. Obviously, she gets the job done just like pretty much every other ship in the game for most of campaign. But you're going to see some struggles probably going to World 13. But Yukikaze in World 14 also works pretty well too. So if you don't have Yukikaze, then go ahead and use your ticket on her. As of right now, I think there's only one way of obtaining her, and it's Gacha. I think she may be in other envelopes as well too, but I'm not exactly sure. Again, she's not a bad pick. I think there's much better options out there compared to her though. But from the options we have as of right now, I think she's one of the better choices to pick, given that even though there are some better niche picks out there for what she can fill the role for PvE, she still works in PvP, I guess. Probably not in later stages, but as of right now, for like most PvP, it's okay. But again, still a fine pick and probably one of the better options from this envelope. Next, we have Monty. So Monty here, Cleveland class, you really use her for World 12 and 13. She has a really good anti-air, but overall, for the most part, she's just a really basic light cruiser to have. Can't really justify any reason to use her. There are much better light cruisers out there, and light cruisers for the most part don't really contribute a significant amount in terms of a fleet unless they are a buffer. And for the most part, Monty doesn't really buff a fleet. She's just really good at World 12 and World 13. I think she has like one buff going for her. I haven't used her in a very long time. Let me go ahead and double check. But for the most part, you would really want to use her just for anti-air worlds, and that's pretty much it. It might be this one. I think it was this one. The accuracy, right, and decrease the damage they take for 15 seconds. That's actually pretty nice to have. I like this for specifically World 12 and 13. Otherwise, I think there's like I'm pretty sure this is a buff right here, but it's RNG based. But regardless, though, she's a nice ship to have in World 12 and 13. Otherwise, I feel there's much better ships out there when it comes to damage and other terms of contributions they can add to a fleet in terms of utility. And she's one of the older ships nowadays. Again, there's better options, I feel. But if you really want to use your ticket on Monty, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. And Swiftsure, just like Monty, good in World 12 and 13. Really high anti-air stat. Overall, a meh light cruiser, but she has some really nice skins if you're really into that. Bias aside, she's one of my favorite ships in the game. Yeah, she's basically just a regular light cruiser, and nowadays there are a lot of light cruisers out there that can do what she does, if not better. And to me, light cruisers are okay ship. They aren't super game changing, except Helena. Probably like the most game changing one is Helena. So pretty much they're whatever. But if you really like her, again, use it on her. And lastly, Malin, fast DD. Doesn't really do much to a fleet except make them go very fast. She has some really nice skins. So if you're really into the Malin skins, by all means, go ahead and use your ticket on her. Otherwise, for the most part, in terms of actual performances, she's just fast. If you want to do really meme runs in EX mode because she's really fast at dodging, go ahead and do that and grab her for that. Otherwise, in actual PvE performances, there are much better DDs out there compared to her. So I can't really justify using a ticket on her for just PvE purposes. Mainly you want to get her for either memes and EX, or you really like her for the skin. And of course, if you're missing her. So the biggest takeaway for this envelope is going to be, if you really need like actual good ships right now, highly recommend Enterprise. Hood is also a fine selection, but keep in mind these two ships, there are there are other ways to obtain them aside from just this envelope. And later on, if you're thinking later on into the game, U96 probably is going to be a core member. Even if you like all these ships right here, they may get replaced in the future if you get better ships along the way, but U96 is still going to remain a core submarine. So if you want to think long into the future, I highly recommend U96. She's probably the best option here, not to mention extremely hard to obtain compared to every other ship in this envelope. And if you want to think somewhat into the later stage of the game that wants to get you through World 12, World 13, even though those maps are slightly power creep nowadays, Essex is a fine option. Enterprise, again, always a solid option for 12 and 13. Monty and Swiftsure also are nice ships to have. But again, they're light cruisers. They're going to help you out a little bit. They're not going to help you out as much. So again, you want to have some good anti-air. And lastly, Malin, if you like her. Yukikaze, also solid option as well too. Definitely is nice to have in World 14 and some other stages of the map that I won't really talk about specifically, because there's so many options that you can use for those specific maps. You just do whatever. But I know Yukikaze is still good at World 14, so you want to think World 14 future status, and you don't have Yukikaze, go ahead and pull for her. But keep in mind that Yukikaze and I think Monty, Swiftsure, and Malin, these ships will be in the light banner pool. And if you guys don't already know, a lot of people do one build a day on the light banner for their daily, and you may get them in the future. Now remember, you're not going to get them right away, and this is really RNG dependent. You can probably never get them with your daily pull, and that's fine. Just remember that if these ships are going to be in the light banner, so you may get them in a future eventually, so I wouldn't put them on heavy focus. And obviously, grab whatever ship you're missing. This is a collection game overall, so having every single ship available is better than picking like one specific one. Obviously, I recommend going for the one that's more difficult to obtain if you're going for that collection status. Otherwise, pick your favorite. And of course, I give you guys recommendations on which one is good for specific areas in the game that you're at. New players want specific ships. Later, thinking into the later parts of the game, some ships are better than other ships. And lastly, there is that core factor of how quote-unquote meta will this ship last a year, 2 years, 3 years down the game, right? Down the future. And of course, my top pick here is definitely going to be U96. But remember, if you need something good right now, there are better options. But if you want to think far into the future, U96 is probably the best option here. So that's my recommendation to you guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video. And as always, feel free to comment if you have any questions. And I will see you guys in the next video.